It's amazing how time goes so fast. And as time travels, we accumulate many memories. And these memories that we accumulate, we feel particular feelings towards these memories. Most of my memories are good memories, and they fill me with joy and happiness and elation. These memories keep me going. These memories inspire me, help me to persevere. Just over 2 years ago, I changed jobs at work. I still work for the same company. In actual fact, this September will be my 20th year within the same company. And the job that I began to undertake just over 2 years ago was quite a complex job, and I've never really done this type of work before. My previous job, I was very much hands-on the floor, and now the work that I do is, I guess you could say, it's sort of like white collar, I suppose. I suppose you could say that. Who knows? Depends on your take on things. But anyway, what I'd like to talk about in this video is anxiety. And I'm not just talking about simple everyday anxiety, that feeling that we feel when, we think that we cannot go on. We freeze and we think of the worst. And we think to ourselves, how am I going to get through, this day? What I'm talking about is chronic anxiety. That very, very high level of anxiety that freezes us, that freezes us in our tracks, and we can't persevere, we can't go on. Well, this high level of anxiety that I'm talking about now, I've experienced this, probably between 5 and 10 times over the last 2 years doing this new job at work. And I don't experience it at such a great level in recent times. When I say recent, I mean like over the last 6 months. But prior to that, it was, quite a troublesome thing for me. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't tell anyone about this feeling that I felt, because I felt that if I told someone, I would be revealing to them, a weakness. I didn't want them to take this new job from me. I didn't want to share with them how I felt towards this job at particular times, because I was afraid that if they saw that this job, posed a problem to my health, they might put me in another job, for example. What I've learned to do, I've learned to manage stress and anxiety within my life whilst doing my job at work. And this is something that I've self-taught myself. I do, however, put most of the credit to God and God's most Holy Spirit and the workings of God's most Holy Spirit within my life when I'm at home and when I am at work. And what I mean by that is, that inner voice we have that's deep down within our soul, that speaks to us at moments when we need to be spoken to, when we need someone to help us. And the words that I'm about to say are some of these words that I have heard spoken to me in the depth of my being during deep moments of chronic anxiety. Don't focus on the little things. When you focus on the little things, it's like you're focusing on a box full of wooden blocks. Rather, focus on the desert, so wide, so empty. Focus on the desert, so wide, so vast, so empty. And these words, I believe, were from God's Spirit. And I've written these words down because I've found them quite helpful. And what I'd like to do is basically talk about the first words of God's Spirit, which I believe I heard whilst at work experiencing deep chronic anxiety. I felt the Lord said, do not focus on the little things as like a box of wooden blocks. Remember, as a child, we would play with these wooden blocks, and when we finished playing with these wooden blocks, we would put them away in the box in which they came at. And when we focus on these wooden blocks, there's so many of them, of different shapes, different sizes, but most of them are square. Most of them are oblong in shape. And there's many of them in this box in which they are contained. Don't focus on the wooden blocks, so many. When we focus on these wooden blocks that are so many, we have so many things to focus upon. And each of these many things that we are focusing upon, creates anxiety and stress when we are feeling anxious about a particular thing. But rather, focus on the desert, so wide and vast. How empty is the desert? The desert is quite empty indeed. Focus on the desert, so wide, so vast. How big, how wide, how vast is the desert? Well, the desert is as wide, vast as the horizon. And when we focus on the desert, there is nothing in the desert. It is complete desolation. And when we focus on the desolation of the desert, our minds too become desolate, empty. Our minds too become desolate and empty. And this anxiety subsides.